themselves more than God. They believed in witchcraft more than God. They believed in cults more than God. And they became gods in their own eyes. As Jethro Tull wrote on the back of his album, I believe, Aqualung, where he said, in the beginning, man made God in his own image. You know, man made God in his own image. And and then Time magazine published and said, God is dead, you know. So why? The United States of America, where we have churches, but they didn't live up to be the church. So anyway, in the light of that, it was a violation to my theology. Why would you send me to a place I don't want to go? Send me where there's no one. Then I understood that he wanted to use me in this nation, because even though you weren't wearing loin skins and had spears and flesh eaters, which would have been my dream to be eaten, preaching the gospel in a big pot being cooked. Now, before you consume me, I just want to tell you about the love of God. What a way to go. But this nation needed revival. This nation needed what God had put in my heart. And so I read the Word of God, and I'd just finished reading Jonah. And I saw that it doesn't pay to go in the wrong direction. And I never wanted to be vomited into my destiny. Slime, vomit, seaweed off me. God sent me to America. Whoo, you stink. I've been in a belly of a fish for 3 days. Give me a break. Bleached. The acids of the belly. No hair. No color. I'd be a white African. Oh, I am. Paul says, that's so bad. That's so bad. Then God showed me that because He's Lord, that He wanted me to change and heal and surrender to a greater purpose than my own, my adventure, my adrenaline rush to go into those places. He wanted me to be that same person, but in America. And I laid down my will, and I said, your will be done in me, through me, as it is in heaven. And I embraced the crucified life. And I said, it's no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives in me. The life I live by faith in the Son of God. I've lost my will. Your will is my will. Your word is my word. Your ways are my ways. What you want is more important than what I want. And I understood lordship. And I came, and I love this nation, and I love what I'm doing. And I do miss Africa. It's just something about the earth of Africa, the sunrise, the sunset, the people. It's nothing better than being on a dust road for 7 days. You come into a village, and the chief is there with his 7 wives, and you lead them all to Christ. And then you say to the chief, you're so dumb. You should have just had 1 wife. 7, you must be driven crazy. I love Africa, but I love America. I love this nation. I believe that God brought me here, and He's placed you here because He's got a plan for us in this nation. And sometimes we want to do our own thing, but the submitted life is where you don't just say Jesus is Lord, but you do what He requires. It's very easy to say, Lord, Lord, but it's more difficult to submit to His will, which is much better than ours, much greater than ours. I got to tell you, God used me in Africa. I led many hundreds of thousands to the Lord, and I preached the gospel in over 300 villages, planted 65 churches in those 300 villages. I did a work before I was 33. By the time Jesus had gone to the cross and died, I'd already planted over 60 churches, which is not bad for a young kid who knows nothing. You understand? But I've got to tell you, when I said yes to God and made Him the Lord, and I came to America, I've seen the supernatural go up in my life. I thought I walked in the book of Acts in Africa. I walk in the book of Acts everywhere I go. You understand? My ministry was called Africa Missions. Now it's called Global Ministries. Where I was limited to a continent, now I have, if you look at my logo, it's a compass with the world. Why? Because I'm not limited to a map. If I have a map, there is a boundary, there is a border, there is a limitation. I can go anywhere and do anything and have enough resource to get there and stay there as long as God wants me to do a work. When you make Jesus the Lord of your life, you're not the object of His abuse, you're the object of His affection. Ha ha! He's a good God. He's a great God. And He never requires of you something that is to your detriment. It is always going to make you better and stronger and more powerful as an instrument in His glorious kingdom. We're to submit to governing authorities, submit to God. Romans 13, verses 1 to 2. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. Defund the police. Dumb. Because authorities are there for security. They're there for peace. Armies are there for peace. They can be abusive governments. Remember when Paul wrote this, he was under the rulership and the domination of a very evil empire, Rome. Writing to the Romans under Nero. And he's saying, submit. I'm going to get into this in a lot more detail, I think, in the next session, if there is another session. I don't submit to things that violate conscience. I'm not going to submit to abortion. I'm going to be a voice against it. I'm not going to submit to doctrines that will pervert our children. I'm going to stand against it. Do you understand? My submission, I'm not going to break the law. I'm not going to violate the law. I'm going to pay my taxes. I'm going to live in honor. Sometimes that's hard. When I look at some of the decisions that are made in government, not just in this generation right now, but in previous governments, leaders, and I can go right down the line from when I got here. George W. Bush, the Bush before him, the old man Bush, the younger Bush, and then we had, what's his name, who couldn't keep his hands off the woman? President Clinton. And then we had President Obama. And then we had Donald Trump. And now we've got Joe. It's a hard one at times to swallow. I've got to be honest. To be respectful, to be honoring. When I look at some of the laws that have been passed that are just a disgrace to a value that has kept this nation so powerful all these hundreds of years. The violation of our constitutional rights that are just a sign away. that they would love to remove, and just riding right over that we have to go to the Supreme Court to just realign things that should never been signed off. That's right across the line. I'm not just saying to this government, right across, because I've watched this thing go south all the time. When I got to America, I've shared this before, I don't spend a lot of time watching TV. Yeah, even, just going to the news, and I go to conservative news. I'm conservative in my value system. And I watch conservative news. If I do go to any of the liberal channels, it's just to annoy myself. But I go and I watch the news, and I have to go into prayer, because it just so discourages me when I look what's happening. And to be honest, this is not just in the liberals. Some of our conservative governors and leaders and senators, I tell you, I question their alliance to the will of this nation. Some of the stuff that we are having to deal with is because of agendas that are written in these things, and I want to confront this. When I got here, I once watched a couple of late night shows, just getting a feel of America, and I can't even remember the name of these guys that would be on late night. There was the one guy who's now got a long, big white beard, and the guy with the sports cars that drives around. Dave, yeah, him, and then the other ones. Anyway, I watched these guys, and it was, there was George W. Bush in power at that time. I watched, of course, with the Clintons as well. And I watched those days they were a lot more brutal. Even as liberals, they were far more brutal than they are now with the different presidents. When there's been a conservative president, they really go after them big time. And then I really got concerned, because I thought, it's so dishonoring, because the Bible says we do respect, we submit, and they're so dishonoring the way they mock these people. And then no wonder the kids mock their teachers, and the criminals mock and assassinate the police, and there's no fear of the judge. I mean, I watched Judge Judy, and people, I fear her. If I went to her court, I would just say, give me the chair, just put me to death. I'm guilty, even if I was innocent, because I just want to get it over with. But I watched the way they speak to a judge. They don't even have respect to a judge. They treat them like commoners. In South Africa, when you're a pastor, you don't have to say, I'm Pastor Leon. You can be Leon, but when they know you're a pastor, they'll just respect you, because the culture is one of honor. The Dutch Reform pastors, we call them much deformed. Fondly, the Dutch Reformed pastors, the Dominee, when I first got to South Africa, because I'm not South African, I'm Zimbabwean or Rhodesian. I come from a British country. God Save the Queen was the song I grew up singing. That's why I understand what living under kingdom is, or queendom. When I got, when you're a pastor in South Africa, people respect you. When you're a city councillor or a mayor, they respect you. When you're a governor, they respect you. When you're a leader, teachers are highly respected. Teachers are not abused like here in America. They're paid well. They get 6 weeks vacation a year, paid. They don't have to do summer jobs like here. No wonder we've got such a low standard of education, because they don't respect teachers. Anyway, the point that I want to make is this country discredits and humiliates authorities. Whether we agree with them or not, we honor the office because it's what's made this nation great. But we're a culture of dishonor, and therefore it's got into the church as well, because we dishonor governing authorities, we dishonor local authorities, and we dishonor spiritual authorities. Because it's a humiliation. It gives us a sense of superiority because, after all, we're the people. So we don't like submission in America. I'll prove my point. I know this is going to be brutal, but just humor me. Who drives the speed limit? One or two. Yeah, you've obviously got a Tesla. And you just punch it in and it obeys the rules of the road. But most people go 8 miles over the speed limit. Am I correct? Why? Because you know they're not going to pull you over going 8 or 9 miles over. So you'll go to the maximum of the grace. Is this too brutal? Put a highway patrol vehicle on the highway. Now, this is Florida. In Florida, even old people, and I'm 70, so take that for what it's worth. Pastor Paul, when I talk about old, I'm not pointing to you. But even in old people in Florida drive at 78 miles an hour. I'm serious. Everyone drives on the highway at 78 miles an hour. You don't want to drive under that because you'll get the finger. Even if you're in the slow lane. Trucks will come past you and cut you off, and you look in the mirror and they're giving you the Christian finger, you know. Why are you going so slow? I'm actually going 70 miles an hour. But it's slow. Everyone goes 80, 90, 100. You're holding up the traffic. But put a highway patrolman. Suddenly everyone becomes law-abiding. It's weird. I'm serious. People come and then there's this backup and you think there's an accident. No, there's a cop. And if you no, I'm serious. The other day I was driving on the highway, there was a school policeman, and everyone was driving the speed limit. And it had school, police. I thought, dude, he has no authority. You can speed. Cut him off. He's not going to shoot you. He's not going to arrest you. Everyone's driving slow. I'm the slow driver because I'm perfect. I actually overtake the cop because he's going 65. And all the people that were speeding past me are sitting behind him, all living in guilt and fear and condemnation. Why do I drive past at the speed limit? I can actually wave to the guy. God bless you. Have a great day, officer. Why? Because I'm not breaking the law. He's going under the speed limit. I'm allowed to pass him. But the people that were speeding suddenly become law-abiding citizens. They're not submitted. They just don't want to be fined. They're not submitted because the moment the cop goes off the highway, the race is on. So we see that people are not submitted, they just don't want to get caught. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. One day I went to a person that was missing in my congregation. Cut a long story short, he had been backslidden. I tried to call him. I eventually wrote letters. I actually sent a registered letter that he had to sign. I got the receipt. I knew he got the letter saying, I've missed you. I've tried to contact you. Please reach out to me. I want to find out what's up. Some people say, well, that's controlling. Yeah, but that's because you don't understand authority. Because if I'm a pastor, I have to give an account for the state of my sheep. It's a God-given entrustment. I can't just let someone backslide, miss church, live in whatever they're doing, and not go there and confront it and try and restore it. It's my calling, my responsibility. And I tried and I tried and I tried. So one day I thought, I'm just going to go sit outside his house and wait for him. I sat outside like a private eye. Sat there with my binoculars, my cup of coffee, my donut. Oh, that's in America. It's not in South Africa. I sat there, and at about 12 o'clock at night, when the bars shut, guess who came home? My church member. He got out the car. He had a cigarette in his hand. This is not against alcohol. This is not against nicotine. This is against rebellion. So he gets out the car, and I walk up to him. I get out my car. Slam the door. I don't want to be shot, so I make the noise. So he knows someone's coming to him, and I'm not coming to carjack him. So I slam the door, maybe a little harder than normal, because it's 12 o'clock at night, and I've been sitting there for about 4 hours. I walk up to him, and he sees me, and he throws the cigarette behind him as if I can't see it. Oh, Pastor, what are you doing here? I said, don't you dare call me pastor. You insult me. I said, if I were your pastor, you would have returned my call. If I was your pastor, you would have responded to my letters. If I was your pastor, you would have been back in church. I said, however, I am here because I love you. And I care about the state of your soul. You see, you can use the term pastor, but not really mean it. We speak with forked tongue. Can't call someone your pastor if you're not going to be submitted to their authority. And then when they do exercise the authority, get all offended. And on that great note, I'm going to stop. I said great note. That would have been a good place to say, wow. It's not that great, but it's true. It's a great note because I'm going to help you to walk in the authority of God, the power of God, where you can resist the devil in the next little session. What time must I finish here? Someone give me some help. Pastor Mike was very gracious. He said, go all night. Technically. So, no, he did. He did say, please don't do it all night. And then I remembered the story where Paul was asked to preach, and he preached so long that someone died in church. Now, I'm not going to raise you from the dead. I'll let you suffer. Oh.
See, we talked about that last week, didn't we? And I said, quit looking at your watch. Quit apologizing about the time. And we read about Paul. And in the Bible, it actually says he went on and on. Then they broke, had something to eat, came back, and he preached until dawn. So what else you got to do, huh? Quick commercial. How many are taking his spiritual leadership training? You're in this room.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Have any of you gotten a degree or studying with him for a degree? Pastor Jason just has started.
It's doctoral.
I will have
Dr.
mine.
J.
Sunday night, he'll be awarding mine.
Yeah.
Listen, you need to drink from a fire hose every once in a while. Make it a form of life. And when someone like this comes, when he talks about the fivefold ministry, I have lived a long time, but what an honor to truly be under an apostle. Not somebody that has a card that have assumed the title, but somebody that's planted churches, planted schools, and has students all around the world. It's worth listening to them. And see, they even took a comedian and made him president of a country called Ukraine to raise up a person for such a time as this. We need apostles that, can do things with a humor for such a time